What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Sauron. Here we do have Sauron fully assembled. The 6 figures you need for Sauron are Omega Red, Deadpool, X-23 Wolverine, Lady Deadpool, and Bishop. Once you have all 6 figures, you can put together your very own Sauron. So what we're going to do now is take a little break, get Sauron here off the stand, and then we'll have a closer look at the figure. So stay tuned, everyone. So here we have Sauron posing off the stand. Now, being a Build-A-Figure, Sauron here does not come with any accessories, which is a shame. But then again, what would Sauron come with? He can't really hold anything, but he still looks really, really nice. Being the Build-A-Figure, he is essentially just 6 accessories, all joined together to make one really awesome looking figure. So with that out of the way, guys, let's have a closer look at Sauron. So here we have a closer look at Sauron, and I have to say Hasbro did a really good job sculpting his head. Sauron looks just like a pterodactyl, and that's pretty much how he looks in the comics. Now, I never read too many Savage Land comics. In fact, I don't even own any Savage Land comics, but I do remember seeing Sauron in the X-Men animated series, and from what I remember, he looks just like he did on the cartoon show. I really do love the eyes, the way they painted them. They're not really red, they're almost like a pink, and they are a little bit light, but it actually does bring out a little more to the figure. His eyes aren't like a solid pink, but there's some green poking out, and it just adds a little more to the figure. I know that's by mistake, but it does look nice. You can see there is some yellowing going to the green right here on his beak, and his teeth are actually really well done. We actually do have full sculpt work in his mouth. You can see his teeth are really nice and sharp. The tongue is painted really well. I kind of wish that they went with a glossier pink than they did, just to give it a wet effect, but as it stands, it's still a really good little detail. Now, Sauron here is using the original Marvel Legends Amazing Spider-Man lizard body for the most part, but it does really work for this figure. You can see all the little wrinkles that they sculpted. It looks just like lizard skin, which I think is really phenomenal. We do get some yellow wash amongst the green paint, and you can see it does bring out a lot of those details, especially right here on his underbelly. You can see more of the yellow, and it transitions into the green. Really well done. I kind of wish that we had some more yellow on the underside of his arms, but there is a little bit, but it's not as much as it is right here on his torso. In fact, his right arm doesn't even have any, while his left arm does. If you can see that, that is a little bit unfortunate. And I really do love the way they did his wings. His wings are kind of this translucent plastic. If you were to stretch them out, you can see my fingers are actually can be seen through them, which is really nice. It does simulate that membrane that pterosaurs would have had in their wings. But that's not taking away from the sculpted detailing on his arms either. You can see, even though they did a lot of nice vein texturing, some really nice green into yellow, they kept the texture going on his arm, although the paint is a little bit thin. You can see it is a little bit transparent right here on his forearm, but it's still a really good little detail. One issue I have noticed on mine, and several is Sauron's, is that this wing, when you move it around, has a tendency to want to pop off. So do use caution when playing around with the left wing, because that does want to pop off every now and then. You can see even right now it wants to pop off. The right side, not so much, but they're done the exact same way. Yellow translucent plastic painted green. But they did a really good job matching the two colors. You can see this is actually the plastic, this is actually the green paint. You know, because this is to the translucent yellow. Unfortunately, he does not have his claws painted. I think that's a huge misstep. They should have really painted Sauron's claws. Out of everything detail-wise on Sauron, the claws do stand out like a sore thumb. It is a little bit unfortunate, but it is something most people can fix. You can see his loincloth is actually done really well. He has some sacks, some pouches. The rope is actually really nicely done. Going on to the back, you can see again how the rope just continues on to the back. His loincloth is just brown and has some tattering to it. Really good texture work on his loincloth. It does look like leather. Continuing on to his legs, you can see how the scales look on the front, which look really, really nice. And then on the back we do have some smaller scales, but they're still pretty big. And then we have these really small texture scales right here, which it does add a lot of different designs on the figure, and I really do like that. His tail, unfortunately, doesn't get as much scaling as the rest of his body. You can see it's just done with the small scales, but it does look good. I believe that that's just an issue with the plastic. It's not an intentional little detail. We go on to the tip of his tail, and it's almost like it's feathered, even though I don't know the proper term for this. It's like a diamond tip tail, and it continues that yellow-green pattern on both sides too, so I really do like that. Looking at his feet, you can see, again, no paint on his claws, which is a really huge misstep. They really should have painted his claws. But other than that, Sauron here is a really nice figure, and I'm really glad to have him in my collection. So what we're going to do now is take a little break and get him compared to a few other figures you may have in your collection. Here we have Sauron posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Sauron posed next to a Marvel Legends Black Widow and a DC Multiverse Jessica Cruz. And finally, here we have Sauron posed next to a Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Apocalypse. So as you can see, Sauron here is a tall figure, and he does take up a lot of real estate, especially when you extend his wings all the way out. In fact, I can't even fit him in my display properly. His wings are actually scraping the sides of my display when you have his wings spread out all the way, and it just takes up a lot of real estate. So do be aware that when you're posing him in your display, he does need a lot of space to display properly. As far as his articulation goes, he does have a ball joint in the head, which he can look up, down, tilt his head side to side, turn left and right, which is pretty good. He also does have a hinge in the mouth, which does let him open and close, and it works really, really well. I do like that. He has a swivel joint here on his neck, so he can lean his head back. Can't really lean his head all the way forward, but I do like the fact that we can get him in really good flight poses. His arms are on a ball joint, go out to about that far. They do a full 360. You just got to be careful that you don't knock anything off or get him snagged on something, because this wing is really big. He has a bicep swivel, single hinge in the elbow. He has a hinge in the wrist, which goes back and forth, as well as a swivel. He also does have a swivel here in his wing, although you don't want to extend it all the way because it does create gaps. If you do strain his arm out, it does create the illusion that his wing is actually attached to his torso going all the way out. And then I don't think you know if you guys saw that, but his arms are actually quite heavy. Over time, this hinge actually does drop it, so be aware that posing him, you gotta be aware that his joints may loosen over time. One issue I have with mine, and I have seen it a lot, is that his ball joint is really, really loose. Like, you can't even hold him by the torso and keep his legs up like that because they just fall. His torso is really heavy, top side and bottom, so there really is no way around that. It does offer really good movement there. You can see some side-to-side movement. The swivels left and right, crunches forward and back, no issues there. Legs can kick out forward all the way out, kick all the way back, go out all the way to the side, so really good articulation there. He swivels at the thigh, bends at 2 points in the knee, has a hinge in the foot which goes all the way back, all the way forward, and forward-facing pin for rocker ankle. We do have that swivel hinge here on his tail, as you can see. And I don't know if you guys are seeing that, but it does move the leg as well. That is really interesting. It moves the left leg. And then we also do have rotation at the tail. No bendy wire in his tail, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's a lot better than the lizard's tail. So overall, really impressed by this figure. So what we're going to do now is actually take a little break, get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have Sauron posed for my final thoughts. Overall, I really do love the way this figure came out. I love the articulation on Sauron, and I really do love the way Hasbro made the wings. It's really reminiscent of the DC Universe Classics Man-Bat, but done even better. I love the way the wings fold in and out. I do wish that the wings had just a little more give to them so that they're not so heavy. This figure is really top heavy, and not just my figure, but a lot of other figures I have seen, the ball joint on his torso is extremely loose, and that's probably because of how heavy this figure is. But posing him is not an issue, seeing as how he does balance well, and he has a really good footprint, so if you want to have this guy displayed, the only thing you have to worry about is real estate. His wings do take up a lot of space, so that is one thing to keep in mind when displaying this figure. If you do have the space for him, he's going to look phenomenal in any display, whether it's an X-Men, Savage Land, or just in your Marvel Legends collection. Now, if you are looking for Sauron, you do have to buy every figure in this wave. There's no figure that you cannot include in order to have Sauron, but I really do think it's well worth the purchase. This figure is done really well. The sculpt on him is good, and Hasbro really knocked it out of the park. Reusing their Amazing Spider-Man lizard mold to give us this figure was a really smart idea. I did find the entire Sauron wave at my local comic book store, so huge shout out to Black Sheep Comics for getting this out to me so I could review it for you guys. If you are looking for Sauron, he is going to run you about $125 to $140 just for the entire wave, or you can get him loose off eBay or another collector for about $80. Either way, you won't be disappointed by having him in your collection. With that being said, guys, I'm King of Dragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go check out all my other action figure reviews as well as all my other Marvel Legend videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.